Obviously, when people are cleared of suffering or trauma, God is the doer. God is the only doer, although he uses countless people throughout the world as his vehicles, instruments, or vessels to be able to create the effects that he wishes to provide for people as a blessing and a relief. We continually tell people, I am not the doer. I am simply an empty vessel, simply a person who is more like a screen door with the wind blowing through. I have no power to affect these dramatic miracles and other phenomena that have occurred. Many people have seen this body bilocating all over the world. They've reported that Connie has visited them in hospitals and their pain left, or that they were completely cleared of diseases and injuries. Once again, that is God using this body for his particular purposes. They've reported that I have appeared in their living rooms and given them advice, that I've comforted each of them, that I've counseled them, and still, it is God doing all of it from start to finish.
Shortly after we started doing quantum gazing in early 2011, attendees began reporting that they were seeing exalted beings, such as Jesus, Mary, Satya Sai Baba, Mother Teresa, Yogananda, Saint Germain, and well-known archangels such as Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel. They also began reporting that they were seeing departed loved ones, such as their parents, their grandparents, departed spouses and children, and departed brothers and sisters. In several cases, those loved ones communicated with the attendees during gazing, and sometimes later, in dreams or in visions.
Hi, I'm Carol, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Connie and Jim for 22 years and participating with the Matrix and the gazing in the last 4 years. I'm a holistic health practitioner and do a lot of different kinds of processing. This year, actually about 4 months ago, I became seriously ill for the first time in my life. I was exposed to listeria through contaminated food, and systems kind of went down, and then I got influenza, and then I got pneumonia. So I was pretty ill, and my own guidance was saying this was about a purge, but it was also about learning to receive, because we master the giving and we have to master the receiving also. So there were many that were focusing and assisting. But then we got a hold of Connie and decided we could set up Skyping over our computer, which was our first attempt, and it went really well. And so we did this a couple times, and on I think it was the second or third, I was not able to breathe. I just incrementally had very, very small breath. And so my focus was to try and exercise and breathe and open up. So I was focusing on breathing, and as she was doing the gazing with me over our Skype, and I started to go like this, breathe, breathe. And it was like a sensation of a pop that occurred, and my lungs totally opened up, fully and completely open. And I started to say, I can breathe, I can breathe, I can breathe. It was an incredible, miraculous thing to experience. And so it's been a couple months, and I'm feeling pretty great and recovering pretty well from all aspects of things, and I am extremely grateful.
Quantum gazing involves accessing the realignment and perfection of all beings with their cosmic blueprint through the quantum field of universal love. Within a few months of starting gazing, we began inviting people to stand in as surrogates for others, by bringing to gazing the photos of their loved ones who couldn't attend gazing, even if they were in a coma, in the hospital, or in another country. Immediately, attendees began reporting that people represented by the photographs were going into remission or having various sorts of clearings. We invited people to bring as many photos as they wished to gazing, and many began bringing very large poster boards showing a dozen or more pictures of those in need.
On at least 4 occasions, I've been directed by Spirit to ask permission of a gazing attendee to kiss them on the cheek, and in several cases, to kiss the backs of photographs of people that are suffering, whose loved ones have brought their pictures to gazing. In those cases, people have been cleared of lifelong arthritis, of paralysis, and of extreme shoulder pain, as well as other types of suffering. Speaking of photos, the first person to bring a lot of photos to gazing is Rose Rolliston, who was the first overseas gazing coordinator who lives in Western Australia. Rose brought the photo of her young grandnephew, baby Kai, to gazing, and he, we learned, had Kawasaki disease or Kawasaki syndrome, which is usually considered fatal. After several gazings, long distance, via Skype, baby Kai was cleared completely and is now a healthy, strapping child who loves to push the dining table across the floor and who likes to play the piano and help his father wash the car. The next relative that Rose represented in gazing with the photograph is her grandniece, Wei Ping. Wei Ping at the time was 11 years old and was going to a government school in Singapore for autistic children. She was very withdrawn and alienated and remote at first, but after about 10 gazings with her photograph on Skype, it turned out that Rose went to visit her and said she was an entirely different child. She had gone from making very bad grades and being at the bottom of her class to being at the top of her class. In fact, she had changed so much and had become so confident that she received 2 cash awards from a member of Parliament of Singapore. One of them was for her dramatic increase in grades, and the second one was that she received recognition for doing a particular cultural dance in front of a large auditorium of the student body and the faculty. There have been other children who have had dramatic results having had their pictures represented in gazing. One was a child, 2-year-old boy in Texas, who had been shaken into a coma by a babysitter, and on Good Friday of 2013, his father brought his photograph to gazing. The father saw a streak of light shoot out of the big screen TV into the head of the photograph of the child, and the very next day, on Holy Saturday, the child woke up from the coma. Another case that was very interesting has to do with a girl who was a teenager in Colorado named Rosie. We learned that she had been in a car accident, was in a coma, and that she had a broken pelvis, broken wrist, broken ribs, a hole in her head, an infection in her head, an infection in her lungs, and pneumonia. She wasn't expected to live. But when her father brought her photograph to gazing after she had been in a coma for 10 weeks, several days later, Rosie came out of the coma. During that time period, when my husband Jim and I had visited her in the hospital about 10 times, I was given a dream by Mother Mary. Mother Mary told me that Rosie was going to eventually wake up from her coma and she was going to walk, but she would be in a wheelchair first. That's exactly what happened. Mary also said that In the case of a child whose karma descends, oftentimes it's to bring an entire family back to God. For example, there have been so many injured and ill children whose families have stopped praying or meditating or going to church, or they might have some sort of addiction to drugs or alcohol or any number of other difficulties. So Mary said that when a child is in a grave condition, especially in the hospital or even in a coma, that the entire extended family will oftentimes rally around a child in a way that they wouldn't for an adult. And during the course of a long, slow recovery, when people who haven't prayed ever or for a long time begin to come back to God, then the whole family dynamics change and also the family values change. So there are many, many reasons that a person could experience a descent of karma, and it usually is not just about that particular individual.
Well, I'm Mark, and I've been involved in the gazing and the matrix for the last few years, and I don't often see or feel too much, except I always leave with a tremendous sense of peace and a more expansive kind of reality around me, which is very nice to experience on a regular basis. Two experiences I'd like to recount are my partner, Noelle. About 6 months ago, she had a very severe ear infection that resulted in a dramatic loss of hearing and symptoms of tinnitus, which she was on a steroid course to no avail, and they were going to fit her for a hearing apparatus. I brought her picture in on 2 occasions to be gazed on, and it cleared up completely. Now she has completely normal hearing, which the doctor was just incredibly surprised, and Noelle and myself are very grateful. And there's been no recurrence of that at all, so that's a wonderful experience. And another one is a little dog of our neighbors, again about 6 months ago, perhaps a little more. This dog fell off the bed onto her head, and she ended up being paralyzed. And she was going to the vets for a long time, weeks, trying to get some sort of healing going on. And I brought her photograph in because she couldn't even walk. She had to be carried out to the garden and everything. She could just about crawl on her back legs, but not too much effect. But that was gazed on, and we did matrix on that too. And now she's fine. You wouldn't even think anything was wrong at all. I mean, the woman who owns the dog, she felt a difference. Like almost the next day, there was more enthusiasm and movement and everything, and it was just an uphill thing right there. So that was, and again, so grateful. And there are more, but that's 2 of the main ones I wanted to tell about today. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Thalia Brooks, and I've been a part of the quantum gazing with Connie and Jim for the last year. And I've had many wonderful experiences, but I want to share a couple in particular that meant a lot to me. One was seeing the sacred flames. Instead of seeing just the ascended masters, but be able to see the sacred flames. And the first one I saw was white with gold, which for me represented ascension and resurrection. The second one I saw was a beautiful peach at a different gazing, and that represented joy. And what I felt so filled with that day was joy. And there was one other lady that stood up at the end and said, I've just felt so much joy during this gazing. So that kind of confirmed what I was feeling also. The next month, which was May, and this is the one I will hold with me until the day I leave this planet, I was able to see my birth father, my biological father. He died before I was born. There were no pictures of him. I didn't even know that he was Japanese Hawaiian, which kind of explains some of my looks here. But I found that out 6 years ago, and I was told that one day I would actually be able to see him physically. Well, I was able to see him in May, which he was with two beings that walked with him, and he smiled at me, and I remember when I met my biological mother, she said, "You look like him from the nose up, and you look like me from the nose down." And sure enough, I recognized him immediately as my father. And I've got to tell you, that is such an incredible joy. It was a missing link in my life that now has been fulfilled.
In the beginning, the first several or so gazings was time for me to just kind of unravel some of the held patterns, the many held patterns that were interfering with my daily life. And some of the ways that I experienced that during the gazing was I'd get these funny little tics and movements in my face, or just immense joyful tears running down my cheeks. Was absolutely just beautiful and very cleaning and cleansing, and just made my life so much better. Also, I've had many physical healings. One in particular was I had both rotary cuffs in my shoulders go to the point where I couldn't raise my arms, above, 4 or 5 inches, never reaching up or over my head, backwards, that type of thing. And over several gazings and making the intention that I really would like a healing for that, I was healed, which was miraculous because I can do anything with my arms and my hands that I could prior to the damage from the rotary cuffs in my shoulders. So that was wonderful. Also, during the many times at the Longmont Library where we do gazing once a month, and here in your home during gazings, is the many beautiful, wonderful things I've seen, like auras. Connie's aura seems to change from one month to the next. You'll see this beautiful blue around her, or white gold light, lovely pink, and on occasion I will see the outlines or a faint image of some of the Ascended Masters, like Sri Sati Sai Baba. I'll see him kind of behind her left shoulder at times, or coming and standing by her side. I've also seen imposing faces over Connie's face. This last month that we just currently had a gazing at, the beautiful beloved Portia came over Connie's face in the room filled with such serenity. It was absolutely a beautiful, beautiful event. And also, at one point in time, after a gazing, one of the staff members and my daughter, we were driving home, and they were talking about the Ascended Masters they'd seen in the room that evening. And all of a sudden, our whole car just filled with Native American saging. So we had this blessing from the Native American masters filling the car with the scent of sage. And all three of us experienced that, and it was absolutely fabulous. One of the most special times for me was I had made an intention that I would love to receive the blessing of having the spiritual veil drop, even if it was just for a moment, so I might experience that. And during this gazing that particular time, I experienced this immediately, and it wasn't a mindful thing, something that I thought about. It was just the experience of being in that moment. And it comes and goes, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's helped progress my spiritual awakening to such a degree that I am just so blessed by this opportunity of being able to experience the gazing of Connie Shaw.
Most of my life I've had to be very independent and self-reliant, and made a good life for myself, and always had to be strong. And when I came to quantum gazing, I remember, and I'm tearing up now talking about it, I just remember seeing this, feeling this strong wave of love, just a huge wave of love come over me, just completely permeate my body. And it was such a wonderful feeling. I didn't have to be strong. I was loved. I was all a part of the one. And And life was so good and has been so much more a blessing since that time. And so I love to come back for a redo, for a refresher. And I thank you all. Mother Mary, I've almost seen you come to me here in those gazings, and I just want to say right now, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Hi, my name is Kathleen, and I wanted to say I knew about transformations for about 3 months before I came. I kept reading about it in the paper or online, and I said, oh yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun, but I never had the time to go. But one day I found myself driving to Firestone Library in the middle of a rainstorm thinking, I think I'm supposed to go there, but it's like crazy. There's thunder, lightning, the traffic is backed up and I'm going to be late. And I remember the advertisement saying, the doors close at 6 o'clock. And I told my guys, I said, well, I really shouldn't go because I'm going to be late. They won't let me in. They said, just go. They've been trying to make me go for a long time. So I did go, and now I wish it was every week because I look forward to it the moment it ends. I look forward to the next month, and everyone chuckles, but it's just been such a wonderful gift in my life, and I'm so grateful. So much grace has been graced to me and my family because of gazing and Matrix, and I'm so grateful. And 2 experiences I wanted to share. One was I had been coming for a couple of months, and I found myself, like in June, I think it was, one summer day, driving down Canyon Avenue in downtown Boulder, and all of a sudden I was driving and I just started to cry. I watched myself cry, and I felt this tremendous love for everyone I saw on the street. I felt love for the trees, the stoplight, people walking, the ground, everything I saw. It was so beautiful, and I know it was from some of my intentions during the gazing that came about. And also another experience that I had was it was after Matrix, but it was right after gazing also, that I was laying down on the floor, and I heard this ruffling of feathers, and it was just like a real light swish, swish. And then all of a sudden I heard this whispering in my ears, and it was my angels, and they were saying, Kathleen, we're right here. We've always been right here with you. And they were just whispering and saying, lovely things to me. And I just remember crying because I always felt they were so far away. It's like whenever throughout the day, when you're going through things or whatever, experiences, the angels, they always seem so far, but they were just saying, we're right here, like as close as your nose. So I thought, I better make sure my breath is, I better chew some gum. But anyway, just 2 experiences, but I'm so eternally grateful. And thank you so much, so much. Thank you.
My name is Karen Bryn Winston, and I have been attending the gazing for several months now. And one of the things that I have been blessed with, as I'm sure most of the people here have been blessed with, is that when I leave here, I have this wonderful envelopment of contentedness, joy, and a feeling of great love just surrounding me, encasing me. I have been suffering with a lot of anxiety from some severe physical problems, and I've been feeling better since I've been coming here. It helps with the anxiety a lot. But I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about the fact that Connie's very close to Sai Baba. And when I was here one evening, I had a spiritual piece with me, and I always keep it with me. And when I got home that evening, I couldn't find it. And I looked all over the house. I had my husband look. We looked at night. We looked the next morning. We turned the couch upside down, all the pillows. Everything was just in complete disarray. And I called Connie to see if she had the phone number for the library here, because I thought perhaps I might have left it here. And also I had turned my purse completely inside out, dumped it, out on the table. There was nothing, piece wasn't in there. It's quite large, about this big, so I would have found it. And in the side pocket and everything. So as I was speaking to Connie on the phone, she said, well, I think we should ask Sai Baba to see if he can't return the piece to you. And so we did that. And then after I got off the phone with Connie, I went and I looked in my purse again, And there it was in my side pocket, and I was just thrilled because it's a piece I've had for a long time, and I'm sure it was through Connie and Sai Baba that happened for me. So my husband could relax then and not have me being frantic all around. But it was a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charlie. I am so pleased to be here and to share this. My first interaction from Connie gazing was in the audience, and I found myself receiving the blessings of the masters coming through her and feeling the fulfillment of acceptance that I never had in my childhood and still don't feel as much as I'd like as an adult. And now to be a partner on the stage with Connie, I get to see the audience and their reaction to the gazing from Connie, and I see even more miracles than my own experience, where an audience of 50 so people gaze and receive the gazing, and it is just a miracle to see the change in the appearances of the people as they receive this one by one. Over the 10 or 15 minutes, I see these people's face change. I see their disposition change. I see where they come in worried, anxious, needing healing, all manner of stress on their faces. I see that dissolve away one by one, and every time I look back at the audience, I see different people. And that is a true miracle, just to see these people change right before your very eyes. So I wish everyone that sees this the greatest blessing as I have received. Thank you so much.